Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to our monthly chamber luncheon. We have got a full house. Everybody came out today. How exciting. We are live today on Facebook, so very excited. I'd like to welcome anybody that's tuning in from their offices or home, and they're watching our luncheon today. Very excited to have Renee Shaw with us, coming off of a very exciting gubernatorial debate last night. So maybe she'll have something to say about that. Who knows? First and foremost, I'd like to ask Pastor Ryan Coffey from First Baptist Church to please come forward and bless our meal.
As we begin this time, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Let us pray together. Heavenly Father God, we just stop and bow before you now. Lord, we just say thank you for today. We thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed. And Lord, as we turn the calendar and the page into the month of May, Lord, we are reminded of the hope and the promise of spring. And Lord, with the changing of seasons, we are reminded of new life and new growth, and how that just points to the new life and the growth that we have in you and salvation that we have in Christ Jesus. Lord, I pray that the time today be encouraging and strengthening to one another. As a community, may we work together to build one another up and to build up this great community that you have so blessed us to live and to work in. Lord, we love you and we thank you. It's in the strong and the powerful name of Jesus that I pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Coffey. We have one Two for Tuesday today, and I'd like to go ahead and bring up Ashley Fisher from Lakeside Memorial Gardens. If we could all give her our attention, I certainly would appreciate it.
Lakeside Memorial Gardens, located on West Highway 80, just above the banks of our beautiful Lake Cumberland. Our cemetery, unlike many others, is a peaceful park-like setting where each garden hosts its very own feature. We offer private estates, which are built to suit, above-ground mausoleum, cremation placement, and ground burial. Since our first burial in 1957, we have taken in over 5,000 loved ones into our care. But my message here today is about a plan, more specifically, your plan. Why do we plan? Because it offers security and protection. We plan for a wedding, the birth of a child, our children's graduation, their college years, and if we're fortunate enough, we plan for retirement too. But how well have you really planned to protect your family? Did you know that there are 67 things that have to be done after a death before a burial can take place? On the worst day of your life, you are forced to put aside grief and make decisions. At Lakeside Memorial Gardens, we offer a free Final Wishes planner, a pre-planning guide that allows you to complete in the comfort of your own home. This guide is a non-cemetery specific and can be used with anyone regardless of the location or the type of burial that you choose. Our free guide allows you to put a written plan into place that includes documenting your will, estate planning, financial and insurance information, medical history, and funeral and burial arrangements. Our Final Wish Planner offers you the opportunity to make decisions together as a family, eliminating doubt and removing burden. But most importantly, it allows you to put a plan into place. To request your free Final Wish Planner, you can contact our office at 679-2653 or go to lakesidememorialgardens.com.
Thank you very much, Ashley. I'm going to move this around here. A few things that I want to do before we go into our program today. I'd like to recognize all the people that have come out today and set up an information table. This is a free service that we provide for our members. So if any of you all would like to come out to one of our luncheons and set up so we can learn more about your organization or your business, we'd love to have you. We take those on a first-come, first-served basis, totally free. There's just only so much room we can have for those. And I want to recognize all of our information tables that are here today. We have the Alton Blakely family of dealerships. I can't find the Alton Blakely. Oh, it's all over. Take a look. This is a $40,000 razor. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Trey, how many of those do you own? Like 2 or 3? Just one? United Cumberland Bank, WTLO Somerset 106 Radio, SPEDA Community Foundation, Operation Unite, Kentucky Statewide Call Center, Bluegrass Marble and Granite, the United Way of South Central Kentucky, the University Center of Southern Kentucky at Somerset Community College, AIM First Choice Clinic, Lifted Spirits, Somerset Junior Women's Club, the Chalet Gourmet Restaurant, Crown Staffing, Heads Up Digital TV, Me Bulbs, CASA of Southern Kentucky, Office of Vocational Rehab, Kentucky Career Center, Southern Kentucky Cleaners, Spectrum Reach Advantage, Lindsey Wilson College, SAFI, ASR Massage, and the Center for Rural Development. Could we give these people a big round of applause? I would encourage everybody to take a lap after lunch today and just visit with these businesses and organizations and get to know a little bit more about them. I'd also like to recognize, and I'm going to put him on the spot real quick. Where's Connor Denny at? Where's Connor? Where are you at? Where's Connor? Raise your hand. Where's Connor? He's in the back. Are you at the door? Connor Denny is getting ready to leave us. Connor has been our intern for the last few months over at the chamber office. Connor's over at Pulaski County High School. He's a baseball player over there and an all-around great guy, and we've been very lucky to have Connor. This will be his last luncheon, so I just wanted to publicly embarrass him a little bit and thank him for all of his work with the chamber. Let's give Connor a big round of applause. As one of the largest business support organizations in Kentucky, the Chamber of Commerce believes it's important to recognize entrepreneurial success anytime we can. Entrepreneurs and business play a crucial role in our society, driving economic growth, creating jobs, and fostering innovation. They are the engines of progress that fuel our modern world, shaping the way we live, work, and improving our quality of life in countless ways. Recently, Pulaski County High School and Southwestern High School attended the FBLA State Conference. And let me tell you something, the future is bright for Pulaski County. These young men and women cleaned up. Many of the students will now move on to compete at the national level. The Future Business Leaders of America, better known as FBLA, prepares students to become community-minded business leaders through career preparation and leadership experiences. Each year, FBLA prepares over 230,000 students for careers in business, entrepreneurship, finance, information technology, and management. We have several of the students joining us today from Southwestern and Pulaski County High Schools, and I would like to personally recognize them for their accomplishments. When I say your name, please stand and be recognized. So from Southwestern High School, we have Cammie Williams, received first place in Business Financial Plan. We have Josh Amundson, second place in Database Design, and Josh also got third place in Securities and Investments. Kennedy Woodall and Emma Sears came in third in Event Planning Management. Haley Sears, fourth place in Website Design with Katie Smith. They both got fourth place in Website Design. Trey Brunton, fifth place in Personal Finance, and Adriana Gazalti, fifth place. Did I get that? Gazalti? Did I hit it? Am I close? What is it? Tell me. What is it? Galzetti. Galzetti. That's a tough one for me. I'm sorry. My Nancy came out there a little bit. I apologize. Galzetti, fifth place in word processing. Congratulations. Folks, let's give these students and their teacher, Mr. Chris Muse, big round of applause. Thank you all. Galzetti. Galzetti. I've got it now. From Pulaski County High School, want to recognize several of their students as well. And as a chapter, they're the fourth largest chapter in the state with 159 members. And they placed third. They're the third place chapter in the state for local leadership challenge. So that's pretty impressive. So I want to recognize the students that won awards at the state conference from PC. Andrew Daniels, second place in agribusiness. Andrew Daniels, Annie Jones, Norman Gabashik. There we go. Norman Gabashik, Megan Coffey, and Mason Horton. First place in American Enterprise Project. Cadence Shadowan, fifth place in Client Services. Cadence Shadowan and Sienna Mullins, first place in Service Project. And I'm just going to shamelessly put a plug in for Sienna. Sienna was the winner of our Young Entrepreneurs Academy a few years ago. She's a senior this year. She's getting ready to go to Campbellsville University on a full 4-year college scholarship because of the YAY program. Mason Thompson, second place in cyber security. Sam Dalton, second place, help desk. Katie Beth Mounts, fourth place intro into public speaking. Annie Jones and Andrew Daniels, first place, partnership with business projects. Logan Dick, third place, securities and investments. Cadence Shadowan, fourth place in future business leader. She cleaned up. Cadence Shadowan, first place, local outstanding officer. Finally, I would like to recognize their advisor, Mr. James Murray, for being selected as the FBLA Advisor of the Year for the state of Kentucky. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for all of these young men and women. The Chamber would also like to recognize Parker Laneski, who recently competed in the DECA International Career Development Conference. More than 20,000 high school students, teachers, advisors, business professionals, and alumni gather for several days of DECA excitement. Parker's presentation was about sports and entertainment marketing operations research. Parker's project involved partnering with the Master Musicians Festival to survey attendees and develop a plan to bring retention and newcomers to the festival. Parker was up against 196 other students from around the U.S., and although he didn't come home with the much-coveted DECA glass, Parker did place first in the state of Kentucky in his category, which is a remarkable accomplishment. Parker also played a pivotal role in bringing a DECA club to Somerset Christian School. Parker is also a graduate of our Young Entrepreneurs Academy. He competed when he was in 7th grade. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Mr. Parker Laneski. As we navigate the challenges of the 21st century, we need entrepreneurs and business more than ever to continue driving progress and improving our world. I am incredibly excited to see what the future holds for these young men and women. Now we can get into our program. I'm going to turn everything over to my boss, President of the Chamber this year, Mr. Sean Doherty.
Welcome. We're so excited to be here today and very proud of our youth and their accomplishments and very, very happy to celebrate that. In welcoming, I'd like to make sure and welcome all of our guests as well as our members. And I'd like to draw special attention to our public officials that are here today. I really appreciate that they come out and they spend the time to get to know our business community. It's very important, and they've got our backs. So I'd like to first mention Anthony McCollum, our jailer, is here today. Shane Baker, Representative Shane Baker is here today. Representative Josh Branscombe is here today. And Judge B.J. Hardy is here today. So thank you all for joining us today and supporting our business community. And as you're aware, a chamber doesn't thrive without the support of its membership. And we've got some great members, and we have three specific groups that really arise to the occasion to help the chamber financially. So I'd like to make sure and recognize our world-class sponsors, our Chairman's Circle sponsors, and our Ambassador Circle sponsors. You'll see on your table a list of those sponsors with their logos. Please make sure and review that, and any chance you get to patronize them or any of our members, please do so. We'd like to express our appreciation to the Center for hosting us again today. They've been so good to us over time, giving us a great venue to meet in. I'd also like to thank Sassy Spoon for providing us a good meal today, Coca-Cola Bottling of Somerset, and Pepsi-Cola Bottling of Somerset for providing us with drinks. And next, I'm going to have Miss Lisa Phelps, our First Vice President. She will introduce our new members for the month.
You'll join me in welcoming our new members. We have several, so if you'll please stand and be recognized. CCR Industries, Daryl Chastain. Circle P Electrical Services, Matthew Parton. Cooper U-Haul Rentals, Tim Cooper. Crossroads, Amy Conley. Honey Baked Ham, Jason Henderson and Ken V. Reese. Lifted Spirits, LLC, Vanessa Thompson and Bethany McDonald, over here behind the truck. Emmy Bulbs, Trey Brock. Ohana Care of Lake Cumberland, Sarah and Joshua Pence. Dr. Peter Herbig, MD. Promo Lawn Service, Craig Stevenson. Somerset-Pulaski County Special Response Team, Chief Doug Baker. Supportive Network of Lake Cumberland, Bonnie Whitus. The Training Edge Kentucky, Stan Moreland. Ultra Care, Dr. Randy Wallman. Van Hook Towing, David Van Hook. Warehouse Clothing Company, Dayon Creech. Thank you so much for joining the chamber.
The chamber is very active in our community, and we recognize part of what that makes us able to do so is our ambassadors. So I would like to take a moment to recognize our ambassadors. If you're a chamber ambassador, if you'll please stand. We thank you for your service to our chamber and business community. And in this particular month, we had one ambassador that stood out a little more than the rest, and we want to award Josh Collins with Ambassador of the Month. Thank you, Josh. Today's corporate sponsors United Cumberland Bank, and Alton Blakely Family of Dealerships. We are very appreciative. They sponsor our lunch today. Both of these groups are strong supporters of our chamber. And we appreciate United Cumberland Bank. I understand you won't be speaking today. You're going to yield and give Ms. Shaw just a little bit more time at the mic. But if I could have Brad Gover from Alton Blakely Family of Dealerships, he's going to give us an overview and may tell us a little bit about these really cool machines that he's brought in today.
Adam Washam said that this vehicle here was said to go over 90 miles an hour, and I said, well, not with me in it. So Crystal and I are going to tag team this PowerPoint. Thank you, Crystal, for your help. In 1965, Alton E. Blakely Sr. began selling new Ford vehicles in downtown Somerset with the mission to provide exceptional service to our customers. And now that mission continues as we celebrate this month of 2023, May of 2023, our 58th anniversary. We want to thank all of our valued customers for being able to serve you again since 1965. And a lot has changed since then, but our commitment to our customers, to our employees, and to our community, this great community in which we live, has remained the same. So we're blessed to offer some of the nation's best-selling new vehicles like the rugged Go-Anywhere Ford Bronco, the award-winning Honda Accord, a 37-time winner of the Car and Driver 10 Best Award, the versatile Honda CR-V, just to mention a few, and of course the legendary Ford F-Series, America's best-selling truck now for the last 46 years. We also have a great selection of pre-owned vehicles that'll fit just any budget. And in December of last year, we were able to acquire Hart's Motorsports, and we opened our very first power sports dealership, and we couldn't be more excited about that. Located on the north side of Alton Blakely Ford, Lake Cumberland Motorsports offers the full line of Honda and Polaris products, as well as a fully stocked and staffed parts and service department. We feature parts and accessories from Parts Unlimited and Western Power Sports, enabling you to customize your ride any way that you choose. Renovations have been ongoing, and we look forward to when Lake Cumberland Motorsports looks like this in hopefully not the too long future. So in addition, I want to show you what is under construction. We have a 7,500 square foot building being constructed. It is nearing completion. That'll give us the opportunity to expand our service capabilities and offer the very best customer experience in service. So come on by and check out Lake Cumberland Motorsports in person. It's right next to Alton Blakely Ford, or you can visit us on the web at lckmotorsports.com. The Alton Blakely Family of Dealerships, your one-stop shop on one convenient campus right on Highway 27, giving you that one-stop shop experience in sales, service, parts, collision repair, and now power sports. All the best since 1965. Thank you for allowing us to serve you.
Okay, now what we've all been waiting for. I'm going to introduce our guest speaker today. Renee Shaw is Moderator and Director of Public Affairs for Kentucky Educational Television. She hosts KET's Kentucky Tonight, Kentucky Connections, and various KET Forums. She provides us with election coverage and legislative updates. Since joining KET in 1997, Shaw has produced numerous KET public affairs series and specials, including KET's nationally recognized legislative coverage. Under her leadership, KET has expanded its portfolio of public affairs content to include Kentucky Supreme Court coverage, town hall-style forums, and multiple platform program initiatives around issues such as opioid addiction and youth mental health. Renee was inducted into the Kentucky Civil Rights Hall of Fame in 2017. In 2018, KET earned a National Media Award from Mental Health America for Shaw's content on the opioid epidemic. In 2019, Shaw was recognized by the Kentucky Gazette as one of the 50 most notable women in Kentucky politics and government. And that same year, she was also awarded the Charles W. Anderson Laureate Award by the Kentucky Personnel Cabinet. In 2021, she was bestowed Berea College's Service Award, and also that year named Unapologetic Woman of the Year by the Community Action Council. In 2022, she was honored by Women Leading Kentucky with their Governor Martha Lane Collins Leadership Award. Renee travels the state moderating and emceeing community events. She is a highly sought-after speaker with her vast knowledge of media, public policy, and political issues. And that is why the Somerset-Pulaski County Chamber is proud to present to you Ms. Renee Shaw.
Thank you so much. Adjust the mic here for the vertically challenged. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sean, for that. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you all for such the warm welcome. Hilma Prather and Mr. Prather, thank you all. They are such great ambassadors for KET and such dear friends, and I thank them for their warmth. Chief Hunt, it's good to see you. Thank you so very much, Julie, all of you, and it's good to see our state representatives. I saw or heard that Mr. Baker, Representative Baker, is back there. There you are. Good to see you, sir, and of course, Representative Branscombe, so it's a good time to be in the pleasure of good people, and all the other local elected officials. Thank you for welcoming me here. To show the spirit of Pulaski County, I had some bags, KET bags that are on your table, and there were a couple of boxes full of them. And I'm sorry, I forgot the teacher's name, but he said, "You need a hand?" And so he and the kids with Pulaski County helped me bring in those bags without even flinching. And so I took the long way around to get here. I pulled up on the other side. And so thank you so very much for your hospitality. Our future is in good hands with good teachers like you and the students who are molding their minds. So thank you. I want to give you a round of applause for what you're doing. And all the other students who were mentioned here today, we celebrate your success, and as I always say, keep rising and shining. And Miss Elaine, hello to you. I see you out there. It's been a while since I've been back to Pulaski County and to Somerset. It's overdue, and I hope to do better with that in the future. It was a busy night for me last night, if you just happened to catch it, but it was good, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I do want to talk about what KET really means and what we strive to do. I saw on the screen that next month you have Senate Majority Floor Leader Damon Thayer here. I actually might try to get down here for that if that doesn't conflict with something else on my schedule, because he is always a good communicator, and I'd love to hear what he'd have to share. Legislative coverage is one of the hallmark services of KET. Long before I arrived on the scene in 1997, back in 1978 and 79, my predecessor and my mentor and the woman who hired me, Donna Moore, made a commitment to having eyes and ears in those chambers and committee sessions. And the coverage has grown over the last many decades to provide you with not an unfettered look, but we cover it gavel to gavel, the committee meetings, the chamber sessions that we're allowed to be in. And it connects the local officials, the local state representatives and senators to home. And we feel that's very important in the age of a lot of misinformation and disinformation, to connect you right to the source. And so I'm very proud of the last several years of I've been able to helm those efforts at KET with our legislative coverage and grow it beyond just legislative coverage, but into the other public policy realms, such as Kentucky Tonight that was last night that had the gubernatorial candidates on. But throughout the year, we're talking about issues that really matter. and not just harping on what's wrong about our challenges, our standing in some of the high metrics of perhaps Kentucky is still striving to make improvements, but also celebrating the successes of what Kentucky does very well beyond just bourbon and basketball and horses. And so I'm honored to be a part of telling Kentucky's story every single day. Today is Public Media Giving Day, so if I can put a plug in for that, if you are so inclined. We are always, as you know, with KET, we rely on state funding, we rely on generous contributions from private companies and from individuals and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. And so we always appreciate the support of community members because you are the major stakeholder. We're not accountable to anyone but the public. And so what the public wants is what we try to satisfy and to deliver at higher and higher levels each and every day. As the only statewide media company, really, not just public, but in the media landscape in Kentucky, it's our obligation to cover everything from Pikeville to Paducah and north and south. And with our new program, Kentucky Edition, that's on 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central every weeknight, we're able to do that, to actually showcase more of the great things about Kentucky. It isn't always politics, as much as I'd like it to be, but lots of times it's showing how neighbors are helping neighbors. You know, our show launched on the 6th anniversary of the December tornadoes in western Kentucky. And we felt it was an opportunity to spend several days there, and we did 15 to 18 stories. Not just about what officials had been doing, but what average, everyday people were doing, what the education community was doing, how schools had become refuges for folks who were displaced, how long-term recovery programs were helping people who had lost everything and were still in flux and in balance, to show the stories of people with such resiliency and in the time of their great need still lending a hand to their neighbor. That's the stories that we told over and over again. And who would have thought that just a few months from then we would find ourselves in eastern Kentucky talking about the floods. And we still have reporting on that, about the cleanup efforts and how that's going and where the need is still great. So for us, we don't want to be just the disaster response team when it comes to media. It's important for us that beyond the natural disasters, to tell the stories of the heroes in our communities, just like we have so many in this room. Education is also another hallmark of the services that KET is committed to. It's our middle name, in fact. And so we think about all the great services, whether it's professional development for teachers, for firefighters, our education consultants are everywhere providing hundreds of workshops and online courses to make sure that we're preparing the educators of today and the educators of tomorrow. 90% of our students use KET's Fast Forward test prep instruction, and they pass that test and they get their GED credential. There's so much that we're doing with free online resources, including 3,500 pieces created by KET to help people connect and to advance in their lives. And so I'm very proud of that legacy as well. I'm not as directly connected to our educational services, but I say that everything that we do in the public policy arena has an education focus. Last night, it was about education. It was about information. It was about cutting through noise and ads and clutter and confusion and helping people understand. So at the hallmark of what we do every day, whether it's Kentucky Life with our new host, Chip Poston, or it's News Quiz with our energetic Kelsey Starks, or it's one of the many programs in the public affairs portfolio, we're always committed to education. That is at the crux of everything we do. So do you want to talk about last night? So about last night, And if you haven't watched it, because I know that schedules now, TV viewing isn't just when we do it, it's when you want to watch it, right? So you can watch last night's engagement. We don't call it a debate. It is a standard Kentucky Tonight program. Format is just like any other Kentucky Tonight. And so last night were the Republican candidates for governor, and it was really the top 5. And we have criteria that are posted on our website that. And I'm a big believer that without standards, you cannot have excellence. And so I, along with Shay Hopkins, who's the CEO of KET, have stood behind the fact that we want to provide a stage for civil conversation for viable candidates. And so that's what we offer. So all of this is public information on our website, including last night's show. And so we, every primary, every general election season, that's what we do, is we invite the candidates who satisfy our criteria to come on Kentucky Tonight to talk about where they stand on the issues. Last night we had former Ambassador Kelly Craft, Attorney General Daniel Cameron, Mayor Alan Keck, who I'll just mention more about in a little later, former Attorney Eric Dieters, and Ag Commissioner Ryan Quarles. And I don't know if this is going to play anywhere, and I shouldn't say this, but Alan Keck, Mayor Keck, did extraordinary last night. And I hope you all were proud of how he represented you and how he represented the Commonwealth, because I've gotten messages from as far away as France and California this morning who watched it online, who have some connection to Kentucky. And so talking about not just how it was conducted, but also talking about the discussion that was had. And certainly Mayor Keck performed very well in that space last night. The process that I go through for preparing for an evening like that, several of you have asked me, well, what's your preparation and do you feel pressure? Yes and yes. So there's tremendous pressure on events like that we know aren't just seen by Kentucky audiences, which is pressure enough. But we also know that a nationwide audience is watching this. There are only 3 gubernatorial races this year in the nation, and Kentucky is one that the nation has its eyes on as a bellwether for the 24 presidential race. So there's a lot of eyes on this race near and far, and we expect coverage from the New York Times and other national publications to come from last night's engagement. But as soon as the filing deadline is over, and even before then, because we knew which candidates were in before that, I start preparing. So I start going to websites, and I'll go back and find video of when they said certain things. And I have in my home office, a fairly large bulletin board. It's probably 4 to 5 feet by 4 to 5 feet. And I start with Post-it notes, and I write topics or I write questions. And it's all free form. It's just what I happen to think of. And I'm an early riser, so by like 4:30 in the morning, I'm up. And usually overnight, I'm marinating on something, and I'll write it down and I'll go post it on that board. So by the time we got to the last part of April, I had a board full of questions. And they're organized because I'm kind of OCD that way. Here's the columns, here's the topics. It's a crazy little matrix of a system. But we had so much developing in the last 2 weeks before our engagement last night that you can be prepared and you can have started way back in January or before, but you got to be nimble enough to pivot. And last night we did that. When I had started preparing, there had not been a Louisville mass shooting that took the lives of so many and injured so many others, right? We hadn't had flood recovery stories. We hadn't had some of the ads that we were seeing. Some of the new platform policy ideas hadn't come out. And so being able to have an institutional memory of what was, but also to be able to adapt to what is part of what I try to do. I was telling Hilma, I've been around 26 years, and the pastor, I was saying the same. So for me, I will say for the Kentucky General Assembly, we know that 80% of the members in the Kentucky General Assembly have 5 years or less of experience. So I have quadruple as much time, I won't say experience, but time in the legislature or covering the legislature than some of the members. And so if you think about what you've seen in that time, my first session was the higher education session of 1997. I got baptism by fire. Now, I was a poli-sci major and a broadcasting double major, Western Kentucky University, by the way. Any Hilltoppers in the place? And I arrived on that scene for that special session, and my mind was blown because everything that I had learned at Western, and not that they didn't prepare me well, you know, I got a real life crash course on day one, especially a special session, which has a total different set of dynamics. And so being in that atmosphere and going from the higher ed session to seeing the change of leadership and the balance of power, but able to witness all of that and where we are now, and the first Republican governor in 30-something years, so with Matt Bevin. So to be able to see these dynamics shift and change, there's a lot that goes on in my mind about where we are and how we got here and where we're destined to go. So for last night, we had 5 very strong personalities, right? And my role as a moderator is, 1, pass no judgment. No one should be able to gather from how I ask a question or a look on my face what I'm thinking, why I'm thinking it, and if I favor or disfavor any position or person. And actually, I practice that. So I practice a scenario where I'm getting something told to me that I know is a falsehood, and how do I respond? So my mother is she's my number 1 critic, and she will say, Renee, fix your face. The camera caught you, fix your face. You know, open up your eyes, you know, don't scrowl. So practicing all of that, but having that knowledge. So we had 5 very strong personalities last night, some more boisterous and involved than others. And my role is to make sure that everybody gets equal time. And we accomplished that. Now, it may have seemed a little heavy on some, but I have a timekeeper that's telling me in my ear, well, we need more Mayor Keck, right? So that we're underneath our format, we're not charged with 1-minute responses, 30-second rebuttals, but to me, it's always important that we remain fair and how much time the candidates get to make their positions. I think last night, you heard a lot of what you've been hearing, right? Raise your hand if you learned something new. Okay, all right. Well, that's good. I want to talk to you afterwards. And sometimes, I think when you're in the Frankfurt bubble, you live in the bubble. I don't know about you, Representative Branscombe, but all my friends are connected to Frankfurt. You know, my world is connected to Frankfurt, and so sometimes I think everybody just sees it all as I see it, you know, not from perspective, but they just know it, right? So it's good to know that some things were revealed. The bigger question I have is, if you were undecided, did it help you decide for whom to vote? Yes? And so that's not my goal, right, is to say, okay, I've convinced you to vote for so-and-so. But I do take it to be an encouraging word that perhaps something was said that informed you in a way that you had not been informed before. And so, to me, I think I did my job, right? And so last night we had moments of near volatility, but not quite. I thought it was a rather calm debate because I had been preparing for something much more rambunctious. But I think that the fact that the 2 front runners committed to us at KET, we were the first to get them. That's a feather in our cap. It's not Renee Shaw's cap, it's KET's cap. My goal as Director of Public Affairs of the department, and not just as the moderator, that's a separate role, is to make sure that KET is the standard bearer of public affairs in the public affairs network. That throughout the nation, KET is known for its uncompromising, fair, balanced, comprehensive legislative coverage, political coverage, Supreme Court coverage, in whatever realm, that nobody does it better than us. That's my goal. So when I eventually exit off the stage, which I hope is not too soon, there is a legacy of excellence left behind me that will continue. So that's my goal with what we did last night. And the big piece with Kentucky Tonight is viewer engagement is important. I often say some of the best questions come from viewers, and we had a lot of questions come from viewers, but sometimes the tone of the question isn't quite what we need it to be. So I adjust that before I say it out loud. But the candidates yesterday said a lot of what we had been hearing. And during the day, earlier, we had gotten word from the Republican Party of Kentucky that now Republicans have 50,000 more voters registered to Republicans than Democrats. And so the one question I didn't get to ask last night, and I regret it, because I've gone back and I've watched it, and I've made notes about what not to do next time or what to do next time. The one question I failed to ask last night was, regardless of who the nominee is, do you commit to being there for them, not just with your vocal support, but working on their behalf to prove victorious in November? It's the one question I wish I would have gotten in. Now, the Republican Party will have a unity event, we understand, after the primary, and we will be there to make sure we document who is there and who is not, right? To see how much support whoever the nominee has in the party. So a lot of interesting dynamics right now, and whether we're still talking about the remnants of COVID, and we're talking about the opioid epidemic dilemma, which we've spent a great deal of time documenting at KET, and now we know that the Opioid Abatement Commission has awarded 24 grants to communities who are doing real important grassroots recovery work. We'll see the impact that makes, and our goal and our charge is to follow that beyond just the election and the political season, but throughout. I'd love to be able to take some questions from you if you have them, because I think that's way more engaging than me just up here talking. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask, I would love to entertain those. And don't be shy. Oh, come on. Oh, yes, there you go. Yeah, well, I think last night, maybe what I meant to say, it didn't get as rambunctious as I thought it would get. Okay, I had planned, so I wasn't very clear. I had planned on it becoming a little more active than it actually turned out to be. But there were some moments last night. And this is a test, and my executive leadership, we've had many conversations about this before last night. You know, when do you know when to step in, when to let things play out, when to cut it off? And they said to me, and I appreciated this, trust your gut. You know how to read a room. So last night there were a couple of times where I thought, okay, the pitch is a little elevated, the volume is getting a little bit higher on the decibels, but I can tell, though, when somebody's about to go over the edge. And I think there was one moment where I did this, right? And I didn't remember doing it until my chief of staff said, yeah, you took out your hand one time. And I can also communicate with my eyes. I have a pretty expressive face, even though I try to make sure that it stays very deadpan. But I can look at somebody like, come on, you know, I'm not going to allow that. And I did that a couple of times last night. You didn't see it. And my director knows, okay, if Renee's giving him the eye, don't take the reaction shot. But there are just some ways to say, dial it back, right? I had a show, quite frankly, and it was a very highly viewed program around the transgender issues. And that was a few weeks ago, and it was before, I think, the legislature had, I know it was before the legislature had adjourned. And it came out of the gate hot. Right, we had Senator Jay Williams on the program with Chris Hartman with the Family Foundation, and I mean, it was loud at the beginning, and it was, I looked at the clock, and we had only been going for 2 minutes, and I thought, okay, is this how this is going to be? I'm going to let them do this, because you can't always keep that momentum, right? And they know that I'm only going to allow so much of that excitement. because then it gets lost, right? And so I let it happen. And I thought, okay, let me rein it back in with this. Last night, a strategy I used was to go around the horn and to pretty much ask them why you want to be governor, but in different ways, right? I never like the straightforward question. That's the lazy way. I want to go back and say, you said this in 19, and here we are. Because facts are facts, and I always go back to the tape and transcribe to form my questions. So I wanted to do that, one, because I wanted to make sure that everybody got a chance to speak, right? And then it was like, now we're going to drill down. But I did spend some time in an exchange with Mr. Dieters and Ambassador Kraft over the lawsuit that he had filed in Fayette Circuit Court challenging her residency. And I had debated, because we had heard that was going to happen days before, and I had thought, okay, is that relevant to this? Is this something that people... And then, you know, when the suit was filed that day, hours before we were to go on air, I'm like, I have to bring this up. And she's going to be prepared. I do know that candidates prepare extensively for debates, and I have been told that there is somebody who plays me. I don't want to know what they look like or anything like that, but that there's somebody in my role. And there have been a couple of times back in 2020, I asked a candidate a question, and this was after Breonna Taylor, after George Floyd, and it was about the protests in Louisville. And I asked a candidate, had they been there? This was the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate. Well, have you been? Because they were talking all about their activism. Well, were you there in Louisville? Did you go to Louisville during the protest just to check on folks? No. Why? And I got a lot of flack for asking a 3-lettered question. I mean, I had people coming up to me in the grocery store attacking me. I said, why is the basic question of journalism? Who, what, where, why, how? But that candidate wasn't prepared. And I went back to that campaign, folks, and I said, you know, come on, guys. Don't give me flack over this. If you didn't prepare that person for that, that's not my fault, right? You know what I'm going to do. So preparation is key on everybody's parts, right? And there wasn't one question, I believe, that I asked the top 3 contenders that they weren't prepared for. Because they were going to answer it their way anyway, right? And so the pivot point is like, well, do you let that stand? Do you let that suffice? Or do you keep pressing and poking? And I did that a couple of times with one candidate about, it might have been about the gun issue. So that's probably more than you wanted to know. But see, I like to ask the questions. When I answer a question, it could take me 10 minutes. So. Yes, sir. So I think that he doesn't give cookie-cutter answers, right? I think he showed a calmness and a disposition and a demeanor and a moderation. I think that's one reason why he's been called the adult in the room, right? I think, you know, certainly I think he is the type that from his answers appears to want to find consensus and doesn't have strident positions, just based on my observation. And so I think that, you know, can serve him well in the future, that he is authentic and real and, you know, will call it out as he sees it. And I think he demonstrated that last night. Yes, ma'am. Okay, that's a very good question. So she asked about, to quote her, to paraphrase, the previous president of the United States had talked about, you know, the media and not such a bright light. You know, and you all know what he said about the media and the distrust, not that he has of the media. It's a lot of people who have distrust of the media. And I think that as someone who is a defender of the First Amendment, just as many are a defender of the Second Amendment, it's important that we stand for truth and for values. I think and her part of her question was how did we interpret that and maybe bounce back from it. I think public broadcasting has always been in a different league anyway, in the sense that I'm not about the gotcha journalism. I don't do that style of journalism. Now, I ask pointed questions, but I believe that everybody deserves respect. I don't care if they seem fringe to some or not. I believe if you found your way in my studio, then I need to treat you with the respect you deserve, because I want that reciprocated. And I believe that energy gives us energy. So if a candidate or any other guest, a panelist on my show, feels like I'm disrespecting them, then I've earned the right for, you know what I'm saying? Like, it goes both ways. So I think for the media, we have to do a better job of helping people not rely on commentary as news. Commentators are not journalists, period. I mean, they might have a journalism background, and many of them do, but when you cross over into giving your opinion, that's not just reporting. And that's one thing that I am very cautious about doing. Even when I do engagements like this, it's not about how I think about something, right? That's not my job. My job is to help people understand the issues that are facing them, to give them all sides of the issue, and then they make up their own mind about how they believe. And I think if we found a rubrics, if you will, that allowed for more civic participation and citizen participation into our process, I could go on about this, because I've been talking to some colleagues about how we restore public confidence in our work. And that is getting more voices of everyday people. I think one of the things that President Trump did very successfully is he tapped into a sentiment that people were being ignored and put down and not respected. And that makes a lot of sense. So then the media, instead of saying, well, that's just Trump, should say, well, let's go find those people who feel ignored and disrespected and disconnected from their political process, and tell their story and ask them why. That's not activism. That's just civic involvement. And I believe that part of journalism, that's part of what we should do, is encourage more civic engagement and involvement so that there are informed citizens making informed decisions at the polls. I hope that's helpful. I think that's my wrap-up sign. But I'd be glad to speak to any of you afterwards. It's a pleasure to be here. I thank you all for the warm hospitality. Please make sure you take a KET bag, and there might be some KET folders in the back. So on your way out, make sure you get some of those as well. And thank you so much, and God bless.
Ms. Renee Shaw, we're very proud of what you do in our state to represent things fairly. And we appreciate you coming and speaking with our community today. So we would like to present you with our Friend of the Chamber designation.
Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Again, a big round of applause for Ms. Shaw. And today's luncheon sponsors, United Cumberland Bank and the Alton Blakely family of dealerships. Okay, I want to remind you our next meeting is Tuesday, June the 6th, where we'll have Kentucky Senator Bourbon co-owner Senator Damon Thayer here. So if we can next, we'll go ahead and draw for our door prizes. And of course, I'll start out here with the Alton Blakely Ford gift bag. It's got an estimated value of $115. Some complimentary registrations out in Blakely 5K run, T-shirts, koozies, pins, complimentary works package for vehicle service. So the first winner today is ticket 748-796. 796.